This is a production of Cornell University.
Hello, my name is Carl Scamenti from the Cornell Turfgrass program. And today I'm going to talk about a brief case study on a project we're working on called the Environmental Results Program that aims to increase adoption of best management practices on golf courses in New York. And so part of this project is to implement BMPs that will protect water quality at actual facilities in our region. And so today's BMP is going to be at Pearl Lakes Golf Course, which is a 9-hole golf facility up in Skaneateles, New York. It's a kind of a par 3 short course, so very accessible, community-based, and very affordable for the people in our region. And what we did up there is some basic soil chemical testing. So the idea behind soil testing on golf courses is to, first of all, establish baseline soil nutrient levels, but then to use that data to build an efficient fertilizer program. And when we say efficient, we mean applying only the nutrients that are necessary for turfgrass health and not excess. When you apply excess nutrients and fertilizer, you're not only wasting money, but you're increasing the risk of runoff and leaching of those nutrients that can get into water bodies and cause issues. So just some basics on what we did out at Pearl Lakes. What did we use to soil sample? Just a basic soil probe, a container to put our samples in, Ziploc bags, that's what you'll put your samples in to send them off to the lab, label them up with a Sharpie, and then just some sand to backfill the holes and smooth everything over once we're done. And then some more fundamentals if you're new to soil testing. How many greens do you want to do if you have 18 greens at your facility? You may only want to do a couple, so choosing a representative sample for your golf course, that means a couple of your best greens, a couple of your worst greens, and a couple in between will give you a good sample if you can't do every green at your golf course. About 8 to 10 samples per surface, depends on the size of the green, but make sure you're spacing those out evenly across the green. Again, representative sample there. And consistent sampling depth. So you'll notice on our soil sampling device here, we've got a little piece of duct tape that just makes sure that every time we sample, we're getting the same depth for consistency's sake. Again, consistency, if you're going to do this annually, taking samples the same time of year and using the same lab every single time is going to ensure that consistency year over year. All right, so the results. You'll send your samples in and you will get something like this. A lot of numbers flying around here. What do they mean? What is a good number? What is a bad number? That's where you need an interpretation method. And the one we recommend is the minimum levels of sustainable nutrition. So that is MLSN for short. And this is a very simple way of interpreting soil test results. All you need is enough, right? So the MLSN levels are based on thousands of turfgrass samples across the world. And each number here is just the concentration in the soil that is the minimum level that will maintain healthy turf. So if we're looking at potassium, 37 parts per million is that minimum level. If we get a soil test back that says 50 parts per million, great, we're good to go. We are above that 37 number. The turf has all it needs. Now, if we had 100, right, it's really no different according to MLSN. We still have enough. We are still above that minimum level. There's no optimum. Just being above that is the important thing here. So the only time you need fertilizer for any of these elements is if you are below the minimum level, right? So if we have 20 parts per million, okay, then we have to go in and we can apply some potassium to get us above that MLSN. So looking at the results from Pearl Lakes, we can see pretty obviously this phosphorus column is the one highlighted in red. Every green is below the MLSN level for phosphorus. This tracks with some historical observations where seeding wasn't super successful on some of the putting greens. So looking at this data, we'd say phosphorus is below the MLSN level. We need to go in and apply some fertilizer so that the turfgrass has what it needs to be healthy. Now, how much fertilizer we apply, that's a little bit more a detailed discussion. We have a case study link below that goes through the calculations you'll need to figure out exactly how much phosphorus. But what we're going to do here is just talk about what the recommendations for MLSN were versus what conventional, more traditional recommendations would be. So right here we have the MLSN interpretation versus SLAN, which again is more a conventional method. If we're looking at just phosphorus here on the left, MLSN recommended about a pound per thousand of phosphorus fertilizer. SLAN recommended more than twice that, right? So we're looking across the whole golf course, 40 pounds to about 100 pounds. And we see even a more exaggerated example looking at potassium. MLSN recommended 0, right? And SLAN recommended almost 200 pounds across the entire golf course, 4.5 pounds per thousand. This is pretty common. Any interpretation method other than MLSN is going to recommend more fertilizer. And if you're wondering, well, does that mean the grass is going to look better? What we're finding is there's research showing now that MLSN is providing the same turf grass quality, the same results, with much less fertilizer. And that's kind of the point. Looking at MLSN as an interpretation method, you're going to get the same turf grass quality with less fertilizer. And for you, that means less money spent. And also it means a reduced risk of possibly contaminating your water bodies around the golf course property with excess nutrients. So thanks for listening to this case study at Pearl Lakes Golf Course. Again, we'll have our case study link below that goes a little bit more in detail about how you use the MLSN to calculate fertilizer requirements. We hope you learned something and look forward to seeing you soon.
This has been a production of Cornell University, on the web at cornell.edu.